Welcome to Communicate Now, where we talk about all things related to effective communication skills. Everything about sales, leadership, negotiation, and my personal favorite, how to win friends and influence people. Today, we have a special guest with us, Princess Bonhomme. She's a business growth strategist and sales enthusiast, entrepreneur, and host of Behind the Sale podcast. So if you're looking to improve your sales and leadership skills, check out her Facebook. You can also check out her podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. So thank you so much for coming here, Princess. How are you doing?
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me.
Great. I'm really happy to have you here. I think this is going to be a great podcast. When we spoke before, it was an excellent conversation, and I think this is going to go really well. So the first question I want to ask you is, well, first of all, you run a podcast about sales and leadership. What prompted you to start a podcast on those topics?
Well, it was seeing the impact that sales had on my overall leadership and self-confidence and conviction and all of the things. Like I had no idea going into the sales space the high ticket sales space that I would have such a transformation. And so I really want to provide as much value as I can and help other people to to reach their goals faster, to have that sort of transformation faster. Because I think that when you're more I guess like a mouse, that's how I kind of describe how I used to be. It can feel like it'll take so long to become a leader, to become the kind of person who can really influence people, but it doesn't have to be that long. And it's just I don't know, I really wanted to help other people who are kind of struggling with what I was struggling to get there faster. And also for me, I think on a personal level, it was just I want to challenge myself to be consistent with offering value, because consistency has always been something that I struggled with. And so if I'm going to hold people to a higher standard in terms of clients and prospects and people around me, I need to do the same myself. So,
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to leadership, leading by example is such an important thing. It's not just what we say to people, it's about our integrity and setting a good example for others. I'm glad you mentioned that. Now, you mentioned that you felt like a mouse before. I mean, if there was an animal you would just describe yourself as now, would it be a lion, or how did that
yeah,
change happen? And what animal spirit would you give for yourself right now?
it's 100% a lion. Yeah.
It's a lion?
I even got a big lion tattooed on me.
Really?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
hit the nail on the head there.
You
Okay.
did. You did. Yeah, because what I love so much about lions is that they are fearless, they are strong, they're powerful, they are leaders, but they're also graceful, and they don't have to be aggressive to lead. They don't have to roar, and they only do that when they need to, like when they are like defending their pride, you know.
Yeah.
Um they're That's what I love so much about lions, and the imagery, it does it for me. I feel like I've kind of really, I guess that transition is from a mouse to a lion for sure.
It's a pretty big transformation if you think about it.
Yeah.
And okay. On I want to talk about one thing that you said, because in our conversation last time, you said something that sounded like a beautiful quote. And this, of course, has to do with the transformation that you said that you had. You said, open quote, on the other side of discomfort is everything in the world that you could possibly want. Now, that was a great quote. I'm going
Thanks.
to write it down in the comments below in the video and on
Okay.
Facebook as well. Can you just elaborate on that?
Yes. We all have goals. We all do, whether it's with our business or our personal life. We all have goals, right? And if we're looking at the entrepreneur space, we all want to make six figures or more, right? We all want to impact people, impact the world, impact society in some way. And yet, when it comes time to actually do the difficult work that will allow us to achieve our goals, we get scared. And a lot of people stay where they are. And so it's like we all understand that the people who are successful, they had to do the hard work. They had to get uncomfortable. They had to fail or fall on their face a lot. But yet something is holding us back. So I like to say, like, yeah, on the other side of that discomfort is everything in the world that you could possibly want. Because once you do the hard work, like if I'm being specific to, let's say, high ticket sales, right? Once you look inward and you ask yourself, why am I so afraid of rejection? Once you fall on your face, meaning get rejected over and over and over, on the other side of that is when you finally get to make the money you want to make, is when you finally get to make an impact, when you finally get to help people. And then down the line, when you finally get financial freedom to provide for your family, to provide for yourself, to not feel like, no matter what you do, it's never enough money. So on the other side of discomfort is all the things that you want. And it's so simple, but people, I mean, it's so hard to take that step for a lot of people.
I mean, I personally think that, yeah, I've taken steps like that on my own sometimes, but I think that I have needed help from a mentor or encouragement from people in my life. Not everybody gets that, but I was pretty lucky to have that with family members as well. And yeah, it's difficult to do. And I think a lot of people watching this will find what you say to be inspiring. I do find that the way you speak, I find it to be very inspiring. And did that come from your transformation, or have you always been that inspiring when you speak?
Definitely have not always been this way. Like I've always had thoughts, right? Thoughts that one could find inspiring or deep or whatever, but I did not have the confidence in myself to say it with conviction. And now I do. Why? Because I'm on the other side of discomfort. So I can have confidence when I tell you, yes, everything you want's on the other side of it. I know because I'm there, you know?
That's it. Yeah. It's to see the confidence in you as I can see that confidence and almost a feeling of relief that you conquered something
Yes.
or pride. And I mean, I know that I've done that myself recently when it came to networking. I didn't know anything about networking before in business and in your profession. And it felt really strange and awkward to reach out to people, not knowing what I'm going to say, how to conduct myself, what are they going to think of me. But I had to push myself through those circumstances. And as some people say, fail forward. And as a famous leadership coach, John Maxwell says, you either succeed or you learn. So I take a look at all those learning experiences and just say, it's something I need to do along the way. And you're right about everything that you want is on the other side of that discomfort, because the friendships and connections that I've created from that have made a huge impact on my life. And I've heard that from many different people. So how has networking played a part in that? The connections that you created and the friendships that you've made, how has that improved your life and your personal development?
Hmm. Um, Honestly, for me, like the people that I've met that have made the biggest difference in my transformation, it's through still doing the hard work though, like through coaching, for example. My coaching community, I meet people who have like increased my standards, you know. So I think surrounding yourself with the right people is going to make a huge difference. We all know that, right? They
Yeah.
say what's the saying? I'm not good with sayings, but it's like the five people.
Yeah, the
Uh,
5 people you surround yourself with, you become them or you become as successful of them, something along those lines.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like that. I think it's important that when it comes to networking, to be intentional about who you surround yourself with, not just networking for the sake of it, but actually choosing, okay, this person is where I want to be. Let me talk to them.
Yeah,
This person has access to more people who are like where I want to be. Let me talk to them. So I think that's really important not to network just to be busy, but to network intentionally because then you can, find yourself in better positions. Like, yeah, I've gotten a lot of opportunities just by knowing the right people. But yeah, it's doing it the right way.
that's really interesting. Um, so many things can happen when you connect with people. And I noticed actually that I had my own goals, but it wasn't just specific to people that were making a lot of money. I mean, that was important because they would have connections and I was would able to get better opportunities. But I also wanted to take a look at what their values were. And I think, when you align your values with the work that you do, it makes yourself more, it will make a person more ambitious and more motivated and determined, and also happier with what they do. And do you feel that you've reached that point where sales and leadership and what you're doing is directly in line with your values?
I want to say yes, because I don't see any reason why it's not, So I want to say yes. Um, as far as like reaching like the peak goal wise, no. The goalpost will always move, but in terms of my values, I think I am acting in accordance with that. I'm really passionate about helping people level up their skills as a leader, so that way they can, have everything they want and help other people. Because like everyone I surround myself with, we all want to make an impact in some way, shape, or form. And for a lot of us, it's through coaching, it's through sales, it's through some type of leadership and influence. So yeah, it's definitely in line with my passions.
Yeah. There's interesting analogy I'm going to give. I always give reference to the movie and the story called Lord of the Rings. There are many people who haven't even watched it now because it's a pretty old movie at least, but well, it's an older book. But there's a character in there called Samwise Gamgee. And Samwise Gamgee is basically the best friend of the main character. He's just incredibly encouraging. He seems like a very humble character, but the author actually said that he is the true leader and true hero of the Lord of the Rings, of the Fellowship of the Ring. He is something I like to call the quiet leader, not the silent leader, but the quiet leader. So they're the person that they don't see them in a leadership position. They don't see them as having a very authoritative personality or behaviors, but nonetheless, they are a leader. Now, and then of course, there's the opposite of the quiet leader, I would call the loud leader, or just the very outspoken person. When people see them, it's obvious to them that person is a leader, right? What would you say you fit the role of more, the quiet leader or the loud leader?
I feel like that'd be a better question to ask the people around me. Now I'm curious because I don't know what people would say. I would say I want to say the quiet leader. Um, but I have a podcast, so does that negate that? I don't know. I really don't know. Can there be a middle ground?
Absolutely. I'd say it's a spectrum. And I'd say when I say the quiet leader, it's not exactly just by how much we talk.
Right.
I think it's more of the way that they lead, because some people lead by getting people pumped up. And there are other people, which I see with you, that lead people by a subtle inspiration that kind of you do it little by little and it just builds up and makes them believe more in themselves. That's at least what I see. Whereas some people are just like gung ho, let's go, let's go, let's get things done. And they're very motivational. But I think that the way you do it helps people more with their personal development. Do you
Yeah.
find that so how does it feel when you realize that you have made an impact on someone's personal development?
Oh my goodness. It's the most amazing feeling in the world. Really, because I know that it's not just going to be something for this moment. It's going to be like something they take for the rest of their life, really. Um, so it's the most amazing feeling. Like that's all day, every hour of the day. That's all I do, and that's why I'm a workaholic. Um, I don't know how else to describe it besides like I feel so grateful that I have the opportunity to help people on that level.
And the ability to do it too.
Yeah, that too.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that those leadership qualities are within every one of us, even the people that believe that they just don't have it in them to lead. Those qualities are there. And like you said before, you always had those thoughts in your mind, you just hadn't verbalized it yet. And now, when she started verbalizing it, once you started saying it out loud, that's what changed the trajectory of your career and your own personal development. Would that be correct?
100% correct. But honestly, before having this transformation, I couldn't verbalize it because I would have been a fraud if I did. Because I didn't do the things. It would have just been words. Anyone can say inspirational words, But it's like, are you actually doing it? Do you have results to show for it? Have you actually felt all the fear and the uncertainty and the doubt and taken the steps, gotten uncomfortable to achieve your goals? You know, I didn't before. So I didn't have the right to say anything anyway.
You know, I see, I'm sure you've seen it too, because I'm on Facebook all the time. There are so many inspirational quotes all over the place. It's almost like they're affirmations, actually.
Yeah.
If I repeat it to myself over and over, then I will become it. Now, there are some people that choose to do that, to change their mindset from the inside out and then start to change their behavior. And then there are other people like myself where I don't find that helps me. I have to do the behavior and then it changes who I am on the inside. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? And what do you think you are yourself?
Yeah, I'm kind of like you where I need to do it. Just saying it's not going to do anything. I've tried. The beginning of my entrepreneur journey, I said all the things. I even wrote down things. I've tried manifesting things via writing them down and writing them in post-it notes. And, you know, I did the crystals and all of that. But like, it's not going to do anything if you're not taking action. You can believe all day that you are a millionaire, but my friend, if you need to look at your bank account before buying a Christmas present for your mom, you are not. And
Yeah,
so rather than spend so much time now trying to manifest it in other ways, what I do is I take the actions every day that if I do enough of those actions, there's no way I won't manifest it. You know, it would be like harder, it'd be impossible to not achieve my goals with the amount of work I'm doing. And that I think is more powerful.
yeah. And now this is a bit more of a deeper question. And I think you're very good at dealing with deep questions. Now, I've always said that fear is the greatest motivator. However, it's something that can make you freeze and run away. So it's a double-edged sword. Did you find that the fear of being a mouse, I guess I would say, for the rest of your life, propelled you to make a change in your life so that you become a lion? Is that the correct? Was fear one of the greatest motivators? Like, oh my God, I'm going to be like this
Yes.
forever. I need to change, or else nothing is going to change. Because that's
Yes.
that. Yeah,
Yeah. It was fear, but it wasn't fear that I would be the same way. Because if I were the same way forever, I've imagined realities where I did stay small forever, and it wouldn't be that bad if it's just me. But it's not just me that I'm impacting if I stay small. It's my family. It's my North Star. My North Star is to retire my dad. So the fear of not being able to ever do that and then watching him age and then, you know, pass away early, that fear is what motivated me. If
yeah,
it was just about me staying small, I probably would have accepted that and just gotten a decent job and stayed small because it's only me. No one's going to notice, you know? It's like,
yeah.
I'll be okay. I don't need a lot. But for my goals, the people I want to help, they need a lot. And I need to do a lot. I need to make a lot to help them. So that's the fear that motivated me.
Yeah, and as you're describing it, actually, it sounds like your compassion far outweighs any fear that you experienced, and that is what pushed you even more. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I think now it's before it was fear of not being able to retire my dad. Now it's compassion for other people. It's like when someone it's like when you win the lottery. Well, I don't know if you have, but I didn't win the lottery, but I've won the
Not yet.
it feels like the maybe personal growth lottery. When you come into like so much wealth up here in here, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to share this with everyone. I can't keep this to myself. It's wrong. It's like a crime to keep it to myself. So now that's what's fueling me to keep going and to put myself out there more and to feel all the fears that come with that anyway and just say, screw it. Like my desire to help other people is so much higher than my fear of being seen.
Yeah. And you like being seen now because you know that you can make an impact on people's lives. I'm assuming that's the
I don't
case.
know about liking being seen. I think I still get nervous to even put posts out, like a Facebook post or something or Instagram, but Um, I it's like screw it, whatever. It's just a feeling, it's fleeting. And I'll make the post and it's like, yay, someone got value from it.
Yeah.
Sweet. It was worth it.
You get only positive comments, and that whole time you're being concerned about that one negative comment, but sometimes
Yeah.
I've heard it said before, someone said to me that 90% of our fears never come true. And someone told me about an exercise. He said, for an entire year, he journaled what his fears were every day. And he did that for 365 days. And by the end, he looked at all of his fears and almost none of them came true. Threw away his journal, said, I'm not going to be scared anymore. There's no
Wow.
point. It was just a waste of time and made him unproductive. So I think that's a great exercise. For anyone watching this, I would suggest you do it just for a month. Write down the fears that you have every day for 30 days. At the end of the month, look back and read them and see how many of them actually came true. And I think you're going to realize that nearly 100% of them different, and you're just going to realize I don't need to be scared anymore because it's going to waste time and energy, right?
Yeah.
So, what does leadership mean to you?
Leadership means this could go so many directions. I would say I want to say sacrificing sacrificing your pain, like temporary pain or discomfort for the greater good. Because like let's say for example, if you apply this to, I don't know, let's say a sales call. Um, it's so uncomfortable to ask someone like consequence questions, like what does it look like for you if you don't take the steps to grow your business, right? That's uncomfortable because now the person has to think about what does failure look like. So for me, as the person on the other side of the call, it's uncomfortable to ask that question because they might cry, they might get upset, they might get defensive. But I need to sacrifice that temporary feeling of discomfort for the greater good, which is helping that person overcome whatever it is that might be holding them back. And so I think this could be applied in all kinds of different scenarios. You could say, like with friends, let's say you have a friend who's not doing what they need to do. You have a friend who maybe they drink a lot and they have goals and they're not taking the steps to achieve those goals because they're busy drowning in their sorrows. Well, you need to have a tough conversation with that friend. It could be so uncomfortable because we don't want rejection. We don't
Yeah,
want that friend to say, "Oh my gosh, like F you, like who do you think you are?" and not be your friend anymore, you know?
yeah.
So we gotta, it's like when you sacrifice that discomfort of potentially losing that friend for the greater good, which is saving that friend's life, that's leadership, right?
Yeah.
So it's across the board.
And in those sales calls, of course, as you described, or even with your own friends, it's uncomfortable having to say things that will make them feel uncomfortable, but it's for the greater good because it will make a huge impact in their lives if they take your advice. If they're not too stubborn, they actually take your advice. Now, you're doing that on your sales calls, and it does make people feel slightly uncomfortable, but it pushes them in the right direction of making a decision. Now, I think a lot of people, they might have the same experience. They feel reluctant to say those things on the call. But I would say there's a spectrum there. I mean, there are things that you could say, which are just, of course, they just come off as being rude or they are rude, you know? And then there's also on the opposite side of the spectrum where you're just kind of tiptoeing around the subject, hoping that they'll get the point rather than just saying straight to them, if you don't
Yeah.
do this, you're going to get the same results that you were getting before, and it's going to
Mhm.
be a problem. So where do you find that threshold is to the most effective area within that spectrum? I mean, that's a very kind of a difficult question to answer, and it might be different from person to person, but I don't know. How do you find that when you're doing it?
I think it's simple. I like to simplify everything. So it's all in how you do it. If you just say you're being an idiot, like anyone would get offended, even though they know they're being an idiot, but you just got to ask them questions to have them see, wow, yeah, I am being an idiot. And so it's about our job. Like if we look at on a sales call or a coach, our job is to hold up the mirror, even in personal relationships, pretty much across the board. Our job is to hold up a mirror for people so they can see what they're doing and ask them, like, what do you think would be the best decision that would put you in a place where you're no longer doing the same thing that you've been doing? So it's just doing it in the form of questions. That's it. Don't tiptoe around it because that's not leadership. That's what
Yeah,
mice do.
that's
No
what mice do.
tiptoeing.
That's right.
Because that's not going to move the person at all anyway. Because they might not even get, like, they're probably thinking, like, what is she on about? Or what is he on about? If you're tiptoeing around it, you're showing that you're scared to actually say what you need to say, and you're not going to help the person. So you've just wasted your energy trying not to piss them off. You didn't help them. And then if you really do care about people, like I do, you probably won't be able to sleep that night knowing that you could have said all these other things and you didn't. I know a lot of people in the high ticket sales space feel that way. I know a lot of coaches feel that way too, that they're not telling their clients what they need to say, and then they feel bad when the person doesn't get the result.
Yeah. Yeah. So they would feel worse when the person doesn't get the result, but they would feel only slightly bad and uncomfortable if they would just be straightforward with the person, right? Instead of
Exactly.
tiptoeing around it or not bringing it up at all, and then always getting a bad result.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, great answers, great answers.
That's why I say leadership is like sacrificing temporary pain or discomfort, because that moment on the call when you want to say it is temporary.
Yeah, that's right. And what's the word? Growth is pain, pain is growth. Growing pains. We have to
Yeah,
have
there
growing
we go.
pains, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And so one thing that you had said last time when we spoke, and here's another quote from Princess that I'm going to post all over the Facebook forum. You said, real leaders don't see themselves as being better than anyone else. They know there's always something they can learn from other people. Now, can you speak on that? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, there's always something to learn from the other person, no matter who you're talking to. So that's why I mean, I'll never I'll never say no, I'm not going to have a conversation with someone. There's people who are just starting out in the high ticket space and they are like, I don't even know. I can't even close a door. I don't know anything. I don't know my head from my butt. Like I'm just lost in the sauce. And I'm like, come hither, come hither, come hither. Let me tell you. Listen, keep it simple. And I'm happy to help in any way I can. Because then through having conversations like that, I learn from them. There's always something to learn from another human. I had a conversation recently with someone who was lost in the sauce and was coming to me for guidance, and I actually learned something from them. I learned that um, I learned that some people really do need multiple touch points before um, they invest in coaching. Because some people, their mindset is very different around making large investments, let's say. And that's something that was kind of a blind spot to me. It seems so simple now saying it, but it's like for me, it was a blind spot because I've always been like an easy close, especially for coaching. Um, so in my mind, sometimes I'm like, all the logic like fits, everything makes sense. Like what else is there, But some people really do just need to like stomach it. Like, okay, this is the thing I'm going to do and just swallow it. So we could always learn from people.
Yeah. And when it comes to coaching, I mean, if you're trying to make a sale on a coaching package, you have to let them know that this is an investment. It's not money
Mhm.
that and time that and energy that they're throwing away. This is an investment that is going to change your life. And of course, there's many different, coaching packages. Let's say, for example, personal development or spirituality. You say, well, this is going to improve your mood and improve your beliefs, or you're going to be able to live in line with your values and feel more comfortable. And so that's the investment. You'll feel better. And then there's, for example, lead generation and scaling. And you say, well, this is how we are going to make you more money. Is there
Mhm.
kind of a healthy medium between the two? Because when you're explaining that, if you get this coaching, you're going to be able to make more money in your business. But I suppose you would also have to say it's going to give you a certain amount of personal development as well. Do you bring that across in your sales calls?
Sometimes, yeah. If the person's very fearful, yeah. I'm like, listen, like, especially with coaches, it's like you are going to be in my shoes as soon as you start getting clients. And, feeling the fear and taking the step despite that is going to help you lead so much more powerfully when you're on the other side of the table. And
Yeah.
so that for a lot of people is the thing that brings them over the line because they're like, oh my gosh, you're totally right. Like they didn't even occur to them that they would be on this side of the table shortly. And so they're
Yeah.
like, okay, let me take the steps so that way I can be the kind of client that I want to have.
I would say that that's really leading by example too. Because if you say something like that, they see you and they're like, wow, she's really confident. Just listen to her talk. She's very inspiring. She can change people's lives. And people will think, I wish I could be that, or I had the capability to do that. And I think that when you're showing them that if you get the coaching and you do the steps that, you know, you're supposed to take in this program, then you can be in my position where everything that you possibly thought, what was it that you
You'll
said?
have everything that you possibly want in life
You'll
that you
have
could
everything that
possibly
you
want.
possibly, it sounds beautiful. It's just, you sold me on it already. How much? $10,000? I'll buy it right now.
The thing is, people, they come onto the call, the sales call, thinking that, yeah, they just want to make more money. They want to get clients, make money, make an impact, right? What they don't realize is what you're also going to get by investing in coaching is you're going to have a mindset shift because you went from being the person who's afraid to invest in themselves to being the person who now has their own clients who needs to help people on the other side who are also afraid. But they don't realize going into it that they're going to get that. So sometimes they just need a reminder like, hello, you want to be in my shoes, right? You want to be in, this person shoes, that person shoes. Well, you've got to be the client that you want to have.
Yeah.
So,
And I see that as definitely leading by example. And it's great because you can show it during your sales calls. You can show
yeah.
that confidence, you can show that inspiration, and you can show that genuine desire to help them. So I can see why you do well. And now you say that you said last time that authenticity and courage go hand in hand. So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Authenticity and courage, they do. Because in order to stand out, whether it's the online space, whether it's among your peers, just to stand out, it's important to be authentic. And everyone says that, everyone knows that. It's like, yeah, yeah, be yourself. No, it's not be yourself. Yes, be yourself, duh. But being authentic means leading with your values, leading with the thing, like, what is it that's important to you? What really is the impact you want to make behind the money? Leading with all of that. And it's scary. It's scary because when you're being fake, right? And you're kind of hiding, when you get negative comments, it's so easy to just be like, whatever, like that person's just a hater, me. But when you are being authentic and you are really being seen, you're putting yourself out there and you get heat, you get negative comments, you get negative feedback, you get no's on your calls, you get rejection, that hurts differently.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's why it takes so much courage to really be authentic. And that's why a lot of people don't make it because they don't have the courage to be authentic and then they don't stand out and then the right people don't see them and then they don't get the opportunities and then they just quit.
So it seems like what I got from that was really interesting. It's like they're afraid to be authentic because it's going to hurt more when they are criticized. And so
Yeah,
they'd rather have a different type of image because if they're attacked, then it's like, well, that's not really who I am as a person.
exactly.
Yeah. So what part do you think that vulnerability plays in courage?
Vulnerability, it can look like so many things. It can look like leveling with someone like, hey, like I've been there too. So I get it. How you're feeling right now, I get it. And here's what I did to overcome what you're feeling right now. And just like connecting with people. That takes vulnerability. I didn't know that before. Before when I didn't have the courage to really connect with people and get vulnerable, I thought I thought selling was just asking the right questions, saying the right words on a script. I thought connecting with people was just, hearing them and then responding in ways that sounded good. But that's not what it is. It's really feeling like this, like where they're at, so that way you can genuinely respond from here. And a lot of us are afraid to do that. And so that's where vulnerability comes in. It's like, it's also on the other side of that, leveling with people by saying, listen, like what you're saying, what you're doing is not in alignment with what you said you wanted. And I don't care about your money. I just want to help you. I want to see you be great. And if you continue down this path, you are not going to be great. So who do you want to be? Do you want to be a person who just says they want all this stuff and they don't actually do what they need to do? Or the person who says they want it, feels the fear, and does what they need to do anyway? I think real vulnerability comes in when you literally could not care less about making money. You just want to help every single person because it takes a lot of heart to care about every single person who comes onto your calls,
Yeah.
you know?
And I understand what you mean there because I'll give a quote from Lord of the Rings again. Bilbo Baggins says to the wizard Gandalf, he says, "I feel spread too thin, like butter scraped over too much bread." And I give that analogy when I'm talking about constantly trying to help so many people or putting out so much energy to try and help people. And sometimes it just feels exhausting. How do you find that? How do you get a balance in there so that you don't take your work home with you and you don't take things too personally? How do you find that balance? Do you understand the question? Does it
I
make sense?
do. My
Okay.
answer, I don't know if it's what you want to hear, but it's like leaving it, putting it all on the table. With every call I have, I give them everything so that way I don't take it home with me. So when I'm done with my last call of the day, I have no regrets. So there's nothing to
Okay,
take with
yeah.
me.
It's the regrets that take away our energy the most.
Yeah.
That's what keeps us up at night. And we just feel that frustration. It pops into our mind. There was something I could have done better. There was something I could have said. And sometimes we can torture ourselves with that. If our
Hmm.
personality, we tend to be high in agreeableness, like very compassionate and polite people. At least that's how I am. It may not be how you are. And you've certainly had a change in the last while, going from a mouse to a lion. But yeah, it's difficult finding that balance. I really still have to find that balance myself, but it sounds like you've done quite well.
Yeah, I used to be I wanted everyone to like me, so that's why at the end of the day, I was so exhausted because I was trying so hard to get people to like me rather than just taking everything I had and giving it to them to help them. Because now at the end of the day, I don't even, with all due respect, I love everyone I have get on calls with, but I'm not thinking about you when I go to bed because I gave you everything.
Yeah.
Whether you took the step to change your life or not, that's on you, my friend. I gave you everything I've got. So I can sleep peacefully now.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because trying to keep up with being likable is exhausting because it's not the real me. And then now I have to make my image feel likable. And so it's
Exactly.
like I don't need my image to feel good. I need myself to feel good and like I did a good job. And so yeah, it can come off as feeling fake, and I never want that.
And people
Yeah.
sense that and they lose respect for you anyway. It's not worth it. I
Yeah.
wish I knew that before, that trying so hard to be liked was actually like I was losing respect points, you know? It's like, just stop.
And you know what? When I do that, I feel less respectful of myself because I
There's
know I
also
can be
that.
straightforward and I know I need to verbalize it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a tricky part for leaders, how to know how to really tell people what they need to know while at the same time not trying to push them away. And it's a difficult balance for sure.
I think that's the barrier for a lot of people, whether it's coaches, whether it's sales reps, whether it's managers, like that's the barrier that if we could just break through that, we would become like exponentially better leaders, more respected, build better reputations, all of that. But it's because we're so scared of being seen, being vulnerable, because vulnerability ties into all of that. Vulnerability is even, let's say, a moment on a sales call where you want to take an extra few seconds to think about what you want to say, but you don't want the person to think, oh, like I don't know why, like why are they hesitating for so long? Whatever it is you're worried about, whatever you're self-conscious about, that's vulnerability, is actually having the courage to, you know what, and then ask the question. Like, and that way the thing that you say comes from your heart. That's vulnerability. Vulnerability doesn't always have to mean like you're crying or you're opening up about your whole life story. Like that's not vulnerability. It's just the little things, it's not being self-conscious.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you're saying to me is like the perfect example of organic rapport, right? And
Yeah,
I think organic rapport just sells way better because
100%.
when you're selling something that you believe in and you know will make a change. That's why I never want to sell something that I don't believe.
Yep. Yep. And
One thing I want to ask before we go here
mm,
is I'm just going to say there's going to be some people, well, there's probably going to be a lot of people watching this podcast that have a difficult time reaching out to others when they're networking. they feel like they don't have permission or they're not giving themselves permission. What recommendations would you have for them that would help them break through those barriers?
3 words. You've heard them before. Next to a check mark. Just do it. That's it. Just do it. It's really that simple. Because what's the worst thing that's going to happen? The person doesn't respond. Because I imagine the person you want to reach out to, they're probably not going to respond with something mean or nasty because you probably wouldn't reach out to someone like that anyway. So the worst case is they leave you on red. So what? Big deal. Move on. That's it. Simple.
I love it. And you love to keep things simple. You know what? I think that's the best way to coach, and it's the best way to learn. If you can take a complex subject and bring it across in a very simple manner, it's like the essence of sales or the essence of coaching or leadership, essence of communication, I would say. And I like the way you think. I like the way you coach. Um, Everyone watching this, go and check out her podcast because I find it very inspirational. And you interview a number of people on there that are in sales and leadership positions and sales coaches. I think it's awesome. And yeah, I think we're going to wrap up this interview right now. And is there anything that you want to say to the audience here before we go?
Yeah. Whatever it is that you're putting off, that you're putting on the back burner, whatever it is that you're distracting yourself from doing, do it. Because you know deep down, even if it's subconsciously, that once you actually do that, you'll be able to move the needle toward whatever the goal is that you're going after. If it's a financial goal, if it's a personal growth goal, just do the thing. Do it, please. For the love of God, please. Okay.
Just do it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Princess, this was such a great interview. I think it's our best one so far. And
Oh my.
you've raised the bar. Also, another thing, Princess, I've been told by other people, they said, Stephen, you're doing all these interviews, but you haven't had a single woman on yet. I
Right.
thought, oh, okay, well, I need to reach out to women. And you're the first woman on this podcast. So congratulations. You're setting the bar. I think it's awesome.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, I'm happy that you invited me on and it was a pleasure.
Okay. Thank you. All
Mhm.
right. We'll say goodbye to the audience.
Peace out.